My son cut off all contact with me for 13 years until he found out I had become a millionaire. One morning, he showed up at my door with his wife and several luxury suitcases. I'm your son, so I have a right to a share of that. We're moving in. You've got more than enough room. I smiled and did what I should have done a long time ago. That Saturday afternoon, when the doorbell rang, I was barefoot in the kitchen preparing to bake a chocolate-covered carrot cake, Daniel's favorite. Even after 13 years, my hands still remembered the motion, as if I were still baking for the son who hadn't called, written, or even sent a happy birthday or how are you, Mom? But when I opened the door, it wasn't the warm scent of cake that filled the air. It was the cold presence of a ghost from my past. Daniel stood there, my only child, next to his wife, Amanda, her manicured hand clinging to his arm like a well-dressed leech. They looked like mannequins fresh out of a luxury store display. Daniel's white shirt was perfectly pressed. Amanda's beige linen outfit screamed at designer labels, and her confidence rare of calculation. There was no hug. No. Hi. Mom. No, I missed you. The first words out of his mouth were, we need to talk. Can we come in? My chest tightened. 13 years of silence, and the first thing I heard was a command disguised as a question. I stepped aside. They walked in as if they still lived there, as if the house was theirs by birthright. Amanda slowly removed her sunglasses, her gaze sweeping across the vat ceiling, the crystal chandelier, the polished marble floor. She smiled, not a kind smile, but one of possession. Beautiful house, Mom, she said coolly. So spacious. Must be a lot of empty rooms. I froze, hands trembling, trying to distinguish reality from the storm rising inside me. Daniel sat down on the sofa as if he had never left. Amanda crossed her legs, poised, composed. I sat opposite them, my back straight, trying to look strong, even though my heart was shaking. Mom, Daniel began, and that single word sliced through me. I know it's been a long time. I know. We've been distant. Distant as if it had been mutual. As if I hadn't written letters returned unopened, called dozens of times only to reach voicemail or been thrown out by his wife who once said, "You're not welcome here anymore." But I said nothing. Not out of forgiveness, but because a small, fragile part of me wanted to believe my son had come back. Out of love, out of remorse, out of longing. We've missed you so much, Amanda said softly, placing a hand on Daniel's knee with theatrical tenderness. And when we heard how successful you've become, she paused, eyes gleaming. We thought it was time to reconnect, to be a family again. That was the real reason. They didn't see me. They saw dollar signs. How did you find out? I asked, keeping my tone calm. Daniel hesitated. A friend of Amanda's saw an article about you in a business magazine. Senior entrepreneur conquers the luxury dessert market. 6 stores, $4 million in revenue last year. You're quite the role model. His fake pride made my stomach turn. So, why are you here? I asked. Amanda leaned forward. We're family, mother-in-law. Families take care of each other. You're living alone in this big house. What if something happened? A fall, a heart attack. She feigned concern. We want to be here with you. We'll move in. It's not like you don't have room. And Daniel, as your only son, naturally has a right to the property. It'll be his one day anyway. Right. The mask fell right there. They wanted my house, my money, my life, and they thought I was foolish enough to let them. I looked at Daniel, 41 years old. The boy I had raised and loved. Now a stranger consumed by greed. Did you bring Gabriel? I asked. Daniel froze. My grandson. He must be 15 now, right? Does he know you're here? Daniel and Amanda exchanged a quick glance, too quick to be innocent. Gabriel's busy with school. You know how teenagers are, Daniel replied. My stomach clenched. Lies. I see, I said, standing up. You must be tired from the trip. I'll show you to a room for a few days. Amanda's smile widened like a cat watching its prey. But as I walked up the stairs, my mind was already clear. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The woman they threw out 13 years ago, the one who slept on a friend's couch and sold baked goods door-to-door, had learned one thing. Never let anyone make a fool of you. If they wanted to play, I would make the rules. While Amanda inspected the living room, running her hands over the curtains and testing the mattress, I leaned against the doorway, my thoughts drifting back to the day my life split in two, the day I buried my husband, David. He died at 62 from a heart attack. In his sleep, I woke to find him cold beside me. Without a chance to say goodbye, the house felt painfully empty. At the funeral, Daniel barely looked at me. Amanda scrolled through her phone, bored as if attending a dull meeting. They left early, saying 2-year-old Gabriel couldn't be home with the babysitter too long. I was too broken to argue. 3 days later, Daniel returned with Amanda and a young lawyer in a grey suit. Mom, I want to talk about the house, Daniel said, sitting exactly where he used to eat breakfast as a boy. Talk about what? I asked, still in my black morning dress. The lawyer opened his briefcase. Mrs. Carter, this house is under joint ownership between your late husband and your son, Mr. David. Left 50% to Daniel, making him co-owner. I was stunned. David had never told me. Dad did it so I wouldn't lose the house. Daniel said coldly. But I live here, I replied. This is my home. Amanda leaned forward, fake smile plastered on her face. The thing is, mother-in-law, we need this house. We're deep in debt. Our apartment's too small for Gabriel, and you don't really need such a big house. Do you? My heart pounded. You're kicking me out of my home? The lawyer intervened. Mr. Daniel is willing to assist you with relocation to a comfortable apartment and a monthly allowance of $200. $200 for 38 years of marriage for everything I had built. I looked at the child I had given life to, now a stranger. You're forcing your mother out of her own home. He avoided my eyes. Don't be dramatic, Mom. It's just a change of address. Amanda sighed, as if I were being unreasonable. We'll give you 3 weeks to move out. That should be enough time. 3 weeks to dismantle an entire lifetime. I begged. I cried. But Daniel didn't waver. Amanda ran the show while the lawyer handed me the documents to sign and leave. On moving day, I packed what remained of my life into 2 suitcases and 4 cardboard boxes, wedding photos, my mother's tea set, the old clock that had ticked through decades. Amanda crossed her arms at the door. Leave the clock. It matches my decor. I held it tightly. It belonged to my grandmother. She shrugged. It's our house now. Daniel stayed upstairs, not even coming down to say goodbye. When the door shut behind me, I collapsed on the sidewalk, clutching my luggage, crying until I had no tears left until my throat burned and The sky turned dark. My closest friend, Carol, found me there. She lived 3 blocks away, and when she heard what happened, came running, holding me. Without asking a single question, I sobbed on her couch, repeating, "He threw me away, Carol. My own son threw me away like trash." I slept on Carol's sofa for 4 months. Every night, I called Daniel, leaving tearful messages, begging him to talk to me, to explain why he did it. The calls went unanswered, the messages unread. On Gabriel's birthday, I gathered my courage and bought a remote control car I knew he'd love. I went to what used to be my house and rang the doorbell. Amanda opened the door. Her smile vanished when she saw me. "What do you want?" "I came to bring a birthday gift for my grandson. Can I see him for 5 minutes? Gabriel doesn't want to see you. He doesn't even ask about you anymore." The words sliced through me. His 3, Amanda. Of course he asks. And I told him you didn't want to be part of his life. He believed me. You understand, don't you? Kids need stability, not some sentimental voice showing up out of nowhere to stir trouble. I'm his grandmother. I have rights. You have no rights. Now leave or I'll call the police. She slammed the door in my face. I went back to Carol's apartment, clutching the unopened gift. In that moment, I realized I had lost everything. My husband, my home, my son, my grandson. That night, sitting on the couch at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, I made a decision. I wouldn't crumble. I wouldn't let them destroy me. Once you've lost everything, there's nothing left to fear. And a woman with nothing to lose can be dangerous. I would rebuild my life and become someone they'd never see coming. I swore through tears that one day they'd regret treating me like something disposable. I snapped back to the present when Amanda waved her manicured hand in front of me. "Mother-in-law, are you listening?" I asked where the closet is. I took a slow breath, smiled. "Third door on the left." Then I walked out before they could see the storm of memory and fury behind my calm. During that first week at Carol's, I could barely get out of bed. I lay beneath an old blanket, staring at the wall, listening to life outside without being part of it. Carol worked long night shifts as a nurse, and every evening she came home to find me still in the same spot. "Stephanie, you've got to eat something," she said, setting down a plate of chicken and rice. I barely touched it. One morning, her 8-year-old daughter, Julie, sat cross-legged beside me on the floor, her big brown eyes full of concern. "Miss Stephanie, why do you cry all the time?" I wiped my face quickly. "I'm just sad, sweetheart. Mom says when she's sad, she bakes and then she feels better." "Do you know how to bake?" A small spark lit up inside me. I did know. I'd learned from my mother. When I was 15, the only way I still felt connected to her. Each recipe written in her shaky handwriting in an old notebook. "Of course I do," I said, my voice raspy from too many silent days. "Then make one for me." Julie grinned. That day I stood up. I went to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator almost empty. Carol was struggling to pay bills while feeding both of us. I managed to bake a simple cake with 3 eggs, half a cup of sugar, a bit of flour, and 1 ripe banana. No frosting, nothing fancy. But when Julie took a bite, closed her eyes, and sighed in delight, something in me came alive again. "This is the best cake I've ever had," she said. That evening, Carol tried it and paused mid-bite. "Stephanie, this is amazing. You should sell it. Sell it? Who'd buy a cake from a broke old woman? I laughed bitterly. All the working moms who don't have time to bake. Everyone loves homemade desserts without the effort. Carol said firmly. I thought about it for 3 days. On the 4th, I took the last $450 I had money Daniel once gave me as help and went to the grocery store to buy ingredients. I started small, baking a dozen cakes each week in Carol's oven, wrapping each one in parchment paper and tying it with ribbon. Carol sold them at the hospital to her co-workers for $20 apiece, even letting them pay later. The first month, I made $240. The second $480. By the 820. And the orders kept coming. Not just cakes, but pies, mouses, chocolates. I made everything. Stayed up all night. My back aching, feet swollen, but I felt purpose. Again. A year later, I rented a tiny apartment, 1 room with a kitchenette and a bathroom. Cramped, but mine. I saved every dollar to take professional baking classes. My instructor, Marcel, a strict French chef, looked me up and down on the first day and said, "You're the oldest student here. Think you can keep up?" I graduated top of the class. Marcel introduced me to Walter, a 72-year-old retired businessman who used to own a chain of pharmacies and now invested in projects with heart. He tried my sea salt pistachio chocolate cake at a food fair and said immediately, "This is gold." Ever thought about expanding? With what money, Mr. Walter? I can barely pay rent. He looked at me, his eyes kind and bright. What if I invest? A 50-50ths partnership. You've got the talent and I've got the capital. I thought he was joking, but Walter was completely serious. 2 months later, we launched our first dessert truck, Sweet Stephanie, painted soft pink and white, parked right by the busy park. On opening day, the line wrapped around the block. I worked 16 hours a day, up at 5 a.m. to prep, serving non-stop until midnight. My hair turned grayer. My skin wrinkled from exhaustion, but my eyes glowed with purpose. Walter became more than a business partner. He was my closest friend. On Sunday afternoons, when the truck closed early, we sat on a park bench and talked for hours. He had lost his wife 3 years earlier and understood my kind of loneliness. "Stephanie, have you tried reaching out to your son again?" he asked one day. "I'm tired, Walter. After 42 unanswered calls, you realize you're not welcome anymore. Maybe he just needs time. Or maybe he's exactly who he's shown himself to be," I said bitterly. 3 years after the truck opened, we launched our first storefront in an upscale neighborhood with outrageous rent and sleek design. Sweet Stephanie's Bakery sold cakes for $180 and pastries for $8 a piece. Customers arrived in luxury cars, lining up to taste my pies. I still couldn't believe it. Elegant women praising desserts made by my own hands. Food magazines invited me for interviews. Bloggers posted pictures of my cakes online. 5 years later, I had 4 stores. 8 years later, 6 stores across the city, over $4 million in yearly revenue, 17 employees, and my face on the cover of a business magazine. Under the headline, "She started over at 56 and built her own sweet empire." I bought a mansion simply because I could. 4 stories, 7 bedrooms, a heated pool, a garden with a fountain paid in full, no debt. On move-in day, Walter hugged me, tears glistening in his eyes. You deserve every square inch of this place, Stephanie. I never reached out to Daniel again. I had learned that some doors once closed should stay closed. Some people don't deserve a place in your life, no matter the bloodline. I buried the woman who used to beg for affection and became someone who no longer needed validation to know her worth until that Saturday morning when the doorbell rang. When Daniel appeared again with suitcases and the audacity to think he could return just because I was rich. Standing in the marble hallway of my mansion, listening to Amanda decide which room she'd turn into her office, I smiled. I wasn't the woman who once sobbed on Carol's sofa anymore. I was the woman who rebuilt her empire from nothing. And I let them believe they were in control. The first 3 days Daniel and Amanda stayed at my house were a masterclass in how shameless people test boundaries. On the first day, they still pretended to be polite, asking before using the bathroom or opening the fridge. Amanda kept her sugary tone. Thank you so much for letting us stay, mother-in-law, this means a lot. But by the second day, the mask began to crack. I woke up early as usual and found her rummaging through my kitchen cabinets, pulling my handcrafted ceramic bowls onto the floor. Good morning, mother-in-law, she said. Cheerfully. Too cheerfully. I stepped closer. I'm just reorganizing, she said with a fake sweet tone. These cabinets are such a mess. You don't mind if I make things a little more efficient, do you? It wasn't a question. It was a warning. Amanda, those bowls are arranged exactly how I want them, I replied. She laughed. Softly, dismissively, as if talking to a child. Oh, mother-in-law, you've lived alone too long. I'm sure you've stopped noticing order. Don't worry, I'll make things more practical. After all, we're going to be living here soon, right? Living here? She said it like it was already decided, as if the house was theirs. Half an hour later, Daniel came downstairs wearing a white bathrobe. My bathrobe from the master bathroom. He sat down at the table, sniffing the air. Morning, Mom. What smells so good? Cheesecake. It was the one I baked every Saturday morning, a small ritual I'd kept for myself. Before I could respond, he'd already taken 5 slices, sitting down as if he still owned the place. Daniel, that robe isn't yours. He glanced down, feigning surprise. Oh, sorry, Mom. I forgot mine in the suitcase. You don't mind, do you? Again. Not a question, a statement. Amanda entered, casually, pouring coffee from the Japanese porcelain pot Walter had given me for my birthday, something I only used for special occasions. She added milk, spilling a few drops on my linen tablecloth. I've been thinking, she said, spreading jam on a slice of bread. This house is lovely, but it could use some updates. The dining room wallpaper is dated, and the living room curtains are too heavy. They should be replaced with something lighter, more modern. I inhaled slowly, counting silently in my head. I like that wallpaper, I said evenly. Amanda smiled, her tone patronizing. I know, but when people get older, their sense of style can slip a little. Totally normal. That's why younger people are here to help refresh things. Daniel said nothing. Just kept eating my cheesecake, as if it were the first real meal he'd had in days. By the 3rd day, the situation crossed every line. I came home from a meeting with a chocolate supplier, and found Amanda sitting in my private office, the room where I managed finances, contracts, and business plans. She was in my leather chair, fingers on the keyboard. What are you doing? My voice was sharper than I intended. Amanda didn't flinch. She turned the chair, smirking. Oh, hi, mother-in-law. Just taking a quick look. You left your computer unlocked. That's not safe. You. No, anyone could see your files. My heart tightened. It's password protected. How did you get in? Oh. Daniel figured it out. He said, you always use your husband's birthday as your password, and he was right. She laughed softly, as if it were an innocent joke. You really should change it. Too easy to guess. Too easy, but only for someone who knew me intimately. My heart pounded. What had she seen? My bank accounts. My store contracts. Get out of my office now. Amanda raised her hands, feigning innocence. Calm down. Mother-in-law. I just wanted to understand your business better. Daniel needs to know how to run things when you can't anymore. That condescending tone again. I'm still managing 6 stores by myself, Amanda. I don't need help. Oh, but you do, she said, her smile fading. You're almost 70. Sooner or later, you'll forget something important. Sign the wrong paper, make a bad decision. That's how old people lose everything. We're here to prevent that. My blood boiled, but I smiled calmly. Thank you for your concern. Now, please leave. Amanda walked out, but not before running a finger along my accounting books as if memorizing everything. That night, I stayed awake. I placed a glass against the wall between my bedroom and the living room where they were staying. An old trick. But it worked. I heard everything. She's not going to hand over the money easily, Amanda. Daniel whispered. Mom's stubborn. We need to move fast. Don't worry, Amanda replied. I already took photos of all her documents. I sent them to our lawyer. He said, if we can prove she's mentally unfit, we can petition the court to remove her financial control. Then everything becomes ours. I held my breath. They were planning to declare me incompetent to steal everything and trap me in my own life. But she doesn't seem senile, Daniel said, his voice uncertain. You just don't see it. Amanda snapped cold as steel. I'll start planting doubts. I'll ask her the same things twice. Pretend she forgets. Record it. The lawyer said a few videos. And a medical note will do the trick. What about Gabriel? Daniel asked, and my heart clenched at the mention of my grandson. He can't know. He's already too defiant. If he finds out she's fine, he'll come here. We can't let that happen. Not until we have the money. Silence followed. Then Daniel whispered. Sometimes I wonder if we're doing the right thing. Amanda's voice cut sharp as a knife. You want to go back to living in your relative's basement because that's where we ended up after your gambling ruined everything. I'm not doing that again. Your mother has millions. They'll be yours eventually. We're just speeding things up. I lowered the glass, trembling in the dark. They hadn't come to reconcile. They came to take. I grabbed my phone and texted. Walter. I need a private investigator. And hidden security cameras installed in the house immediately. He replied almost at once. 2 technicians will be there in the morning. And Stephanie, stay strong. You've beaten worse before. You'll win again. I lay back staring at the ceiling. A faint smile on my lips. They wanted me to look weak. Fine. I'd give them the best performance of their lives. The best way to catch a snake is to let it think it's unseen. The next morning, when Daniel and Amanda came downstairs, I was already at the table, wearing a light floral dress, the perfect image of a harmless old lady. "Good morning, you two," I said sweetly. Amanda shot Daniel a knowing glance. "Morning, mother-in-law. Sleep well?" "Very well," I replied. Though I had some strange dreams. "What kind of dreams?" Amanda asked quickly. "Oh, nothing much," I said, pretending to think. "I dreamt I was in our old house, where Daniel grew up, looking for something, but couldn't remember what it was." I scratched my head, feigning confusion. "Funny how memory plays tricks on you, isn't it?" Her eyes lit up like a shark, catching the scent of blood. "Exactly, mother-in-law. Perfectly normal at your age. Yesterday, you mentioned your stores, right? How many were there again?" I said 6. Didn't I? Or was it 5? Oh, maybe 6. Or maybe one closed. I can't remember. I smiled faintly. "That's fine, though. Walter helps me with those things." Amanda leaned forward slightly, taking mental notes. "Walter helps you with what exactly?" "Oh, just some numbers. I'm terrible with math. He handles that part." A perfect lie. For the next 3 days, I kept up the act, asking questions I already knew the answers to, leaving my phone out in plain sight and pretending to forget it. Occasionally calling Daniel by his father's name, then correcting myself. "Oh, sorry, dear. You just look so much like him." Amanda recorded everything, that smug smile on her face, while Daniel stayed silent, torn between guilt, confusion, and greed. Meanwhile, Walter's technicians had finished their work. 5 hidden cameras in the office, the living room, the kitchen, the upstairs hallway, and their guest room. All in high definition, automatically uploaded to a secure cloud that only Walter and I could access. The private investigator Walter hired, a discreet man in his 40s, named Richard, handed me the first report on Friday. I locked myself in my office to read it line by line. Daniel Carter, 41 years old, extensive debt history. The report opened with numbers that chilled me. Daniel Carter, 41, had been sued by 3 online betting companies over the past 2 years. Total debt, nearly $387,000. Their home had been foreclosed on 4 months earlier for missed payments. They currently had no fixed address. Bank balance minus $12,000. I kept reading. Amanda Carter, 39. 3. Credit cards frozen for non-payment. A lawsuit from her former employer for embezzling company funds of $45,000. Settlement still unpaid. 2 months ago, police issued a repossession order for her imported SUV. So, that was it. They weren't just greedy, they were desperate, drowning in debt, and I was the lifeline they planned to steal. But the next part of the report left me numb. Gabriel Carter, 15 years old, student at Riverside High School. According to records, the boy had been living with his maternal uncle since March. Reason: both parents temporarily lost custody after allegations of neglect, with the case still under juvenile court review. My grandson, the child I once held in my arms, had been taken from his parents and was living with a stranger, not knowing that his grandmother was still alive, living less than 40 minutes away, and thriving. I gripped the report, my hands shaking, my throat tightening with a mix of rage and heartbreak so strong I bit my lip to stop from crying out loud. They had lied to everyone, even to their own child. That night, I sat in front of my computer watching all the footage from the hidden cameras. 1 week of recordings, and every minute confirmed what I had suspected. The first scene. My office, Tuesday afternoon. Daniel walked in alone, opened the filing cabinet, and took pictures of my documents with his phone, financial reports, property deeds, bank statements, everything. The second scene, the guest living room, Wednesday night. Amanda was on the phone. Yes. It's me, Mr. Jacobs. I have the documents you asked for. She's got $6,400,000 in cash, not counting the house and the business. Can you prepare the medical paperwork we discussed? Perfect. How much? $50,000. Fine. Once we get access to the account, we'll transfer it. There. Third scene, the main living room. Thursday morning. Amanda showed Daniel 3 edited clips on her phone where I pretended to be confused. She had cut them to make me look disoriented. See, looks real, doesn't it? She laughed. Daniel frowned. Because it is real. Is it? Don't be stupid. Old people always act senile to get attention. Either way, we need the money. Amanda said coldly. My brother said he can't keep Gabriel much longer. If the social worker finds out we lied, we'll lose custody forever. Daniel rubbed his head and sighed. Sometimes I don't understand how things got this bad. Because you gambled away all our money and made me live like a nobody, she snapped. Your mother has too much for one old woman. We're just taking what's ours. I saved all the footage, organized it into folders, and called my trusted attorney, Henry Vaughan, 60 years old, the man who had handled my legal matters for the past 5 years. After listening to everything, his tone grew grave. Stephanie, what they've done amounts to fraud and attempted asset seizure. If they succeed with this false incompetence claim, it could even qualify as unlawful confinement. Do you want to press charges or just make them disappear from your life? I want justice, I said. But first, I need to find my grandson. I'll handle it. Give me 48 hours. Saturday morning, exactly 1 week since Daniel and Amanda arrived. Amanda spoke up during breakfast. Mother-in-law would like to host a small dinner party here, just close friends and family to bring everyone together. Again, you only need to show up. I'll handle everything. Daniel kept his eyes down, avoiding mine. A party? I asked, pretending to tremble. That's right. It'll be wonderful. A house this big should feel like a home, don't you think? I understood immediately. It wasn't a party. It was a stage. They wanted witnesses to see me losing it, to build evidence that I needed guardianship. I smiled gently. Lovely idea, dear. When? Next Saturday, plenty of time to prepare. Perfect, I said, lifting my teacup with both hands, deliberately, letting them tremble slightly. It'll be so nice to have the family together again. When they left the kitchen, I texted Henry. They're planning a dinner next Saturday. That's when they'll make their move. He replied almost instantly. Consider it handled, but be ready. It won't be easy. I looked out the window and saw Amanda pacing the garden, phone in hand, probably arranging her reconciliation party. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be worth it. After 13 years, I was finally about to deliver justice, cold and precise, exactly as they deserved. Tuesday afternoon, I had just returned from a supplier meeting when the doorbell rang. I frowned. Daniel and Amanda had said they were out on errands. When I opened the door, my heart stopped. Before me stood a tall, thin teenager. His angular face so much like Daniel's that it made me dizzy. Tousled brown hair, deep-set eyes, an old backpack on his shoulder, sweat beating on his forehead. "Are you Mrs. Stephanie?" he asked, his voice trembling. My knees almost gave way. "Gabriel." He took a deep breath, as if hearing his name confirmed what he hadn't dared to believe. "It's really you. I found you." Then, to my astonishment, tears streamed down his face. "You're really my grandmother." I said nothing, just opened my arms. The 15-year-old boy I hadn't seen since he was 2 ran into my embrace, sobbing the raw, broken sobs of a child who'd carried pain far too long. "Come in, sweetheart," I whispered, pulling him inside and closing the door quickly in case Daniel and Amanda came back. I led Gabriel to the kitchen, poured a glass of orange juice, and set it in front of him. His hands trembled so badly he almost spilled it. I sat beside him and took his cold hands in mine. "How did you find me?" I asked. Gabriel wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "Grandma, they lied. They lied about everything. About you, about our whole life." "Tell me everything," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "All my life, they said, you died in a car accident when I was little. I grew up believing I never had a grandmother. But 3 months ago, when I was looking for my birth certificate to apply for an ID, I found a box hidden under the bed. Inside were letters, all addressed to me, signed Stephanie Carter. Those letters, the ones I had sent for every birthday for 5 years straight before giving up because they were always returned or lost. There were about 15. Gabriel said, his voice breaking. "You wrote that you missed me, thought of me every day." There were photos, too. When I read them, I knew they'd lied. You weren't dead. You were alive and they'd kept you from me. I couldn't speak. "Did you confront your parents?" "Of course. Dad got furious. Said you were crazy. That you tried to kidnap me when I was little and that's why they cut you off. But I didn't believe it. No crazy person writes letters filled with that much love." He reached into his backpack and pulled out an old envelope. "Here, I brought one to prove it." My hands trembled as I opened it, recognizing my handwriting. "My dearest grandson, today you turn 4. I can't be there to sing happy birthday, but please know that wherever I am, I'm thinking of you and holding all my love in my heart, waiting for the day I can hug you again. Love you more than anything, Grandma Stephanie." Tears streamed down my face. Gabriel continued. "I started searching online. Found your name, your photo, the bakery. Stories. You're not crazy. You're amazing. And then I realized why they lied." I looked at him softly. "Why, sweetheart?" "Because my dad lost everything gambling. And Mom spent money like it grew on trees. They were jealous, ashamed, and needed a story to cover their failures." He lowered his head, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't know how terrible it really was. 2 weeks ago, they left home saying everything was settled, that we'd have a new house, new money, a new life." He looked up at me, his young eyes filled with startling clarity. "They came here for you, didn't they?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, they've been here for over a week." Gabriel clenched his fists, jaw tightening in anger. "They'll try to take your money. I know them. They'll lie, manipulate, do anything to get it. You have to make them leave before. I gently interrupted, placing my hand on his cheek. I know, sweetheart. I know exactly what they're doing. He stared at me, surprised. You know, I do. I'm already handling it. But now tell me, how did you leave your uncle's house? Do they know you're here? He bit his lip. I ran away, took a bus to the city where your bakery was mentioned in the articles. I asked around until a lady who worked there gave me this address. Your uncle must be worried sick. No, he works all day. Doesn't get home until late at night. I looked at my grandson. The flesh and blood life had returned to me and made a decision. Gabriel, you're staying here tonight. We'll face this together. But first, I have to call your uncle. He needs to know you're safe. Please don't make me go back, Grandma. Please, I can't take it anymore. You won't have to, I said firmly. But we'll do this legally so no one can tear us apart again. I called Henry and told him everything. He listened quietly, then said, Stephanie, this changes everything. Now that Gabriel's with you, we have a living witness to the parents' neglect. I can file for temporary custody today. With your financial stability and mental health record, no judge will deny it. How long will it take? 72 hours for temporary approval. A week for permanent. Do it, I said. And prepare the charges against Daniel and Amanda. Everything must be ready by Saturday. It will be. I turned to Gabriel. Now tell me everything you know about their plan. And he did about overheard phone calls when he pretended to sleep about the corrupt lawyer Amanda hired. The fake documents they were drafting to declare me incompetent. Their scheme to seize my company and put me in a nursing home. He spoke of the debts, the pressure from aggressive lenders, and the fear he lived with every day. I always knew something was wrong, he said quietly. Someone who writes letters like that can't be insane. By the time he finished, the sun was setting. I took Gabriel upstairs to the third floor to an old guest room Daniel and Amanda didn't know existed. You'll stay here quietly. Don't make a sound. They can't know you're here not yet. Understand? But Grandma, trust me. I said. I have a plan and you'll help. When the time is right. Can you do that? Gabriel looked into my eyes and nodded. Yes, Grandma. Good boy. I kissed his forehead. Rest now. There are clean clothes in the closet. Take a shower and stay quiet. What about food? I'll bring it up. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I heard keys turning in the lock. Daniel and Amanda were home. I took a deep breath, put my sweet old lady mask back on, and stepped into the hallway. Hello, you two. Everything okay? Amanda smiled, that familiar fake smile. Perfect, mother-in-law. And you know what? Saturday's dinner is going to be even better than we imagined. No one will ever forget it. Wonderful, I replied, my voice dripping with honey. They had no idea the surprise at that dinner wouldn't be me. It would be them. The next 5 days were the longest of my life. Gabriel stayed hidden upstairs, silent as a shadow. I only brought food when Daniel and Amanda were out or distracted. He ate like someone who hadn't had a full meal in weeks. But what he truly hungered for wasn't food. It was care, love, and belonging. We spoke softly. He told me about school, old friends, the loneliness of living with an uncle who never wanted him. I told him about rebuilding my life from the days selling cakes out of a food truck to opening my first store. Every cake I make is my way of telling the world I'm still here and that I still matter. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Gabriel said on Wednesday night after finishing his lasagna. Not strong, sweetheart, I said, brushing his hair gently. Just too stubborn to give up. Downstairs, Amanda turned the house into a party factory. She hired caterers, decorators, even rented new tables and chairs, all charged to my credit card, the one she'd borrowed Monday, claiming hers wasn't working. I let her. The more she spent, the clearer the evidence would be. Thursday afternoon, the lawyer Amanda had hired showed up. Mr. Clayton, a short, stocky man in his 50s, wearing a cheap suit and a massive gold ring. He smiled when he shook my hand, the kind of smile predators wear. Mrs. Stephanie, such a pleasure to meet you. Your son's told me all about you. I'm sure he has, I said softly. You're a lawyer? Yes. I'm here to help you sign a few simple documents. Things someone your age should really take care of. What kind of documents? He opened his briefcase and pulled out 3 forms. A full power of attorney, granting Daniel control over my assets. A will leaving everything to my son, and a routine medical consent form, which everyone knows is how fake diagnoses start. I have to sign all of them, I asked, pretending confusion. It's best if you do, he said smoothly, choosing his words like gifts. That way, no one can take advantage of your delicate state. I held the papers, pretending to read, frowning, running my finger over the tiny print. So many words. I need to think about it. Amanda's face flushed. How long do you need to think? Mr. Clayton came all this way to help you. I know, but these things are important. My lawyer always says never to sign anything without reading it carefully. Lawyer? Daniel snapped. You have a lawyer? Of course, I said calmly. Henry. He's handled my affairs for years. Amanda and Clayton exchanged alarmed looks. Then you'd better consult him first, Clayton said quickly, snatching the papers back. But don't take too long. It's urgent. After they left, I heard Amanda shouting in the kitchen. She's got a lawyer. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know. Find out who he is right now. If he's any good, we're finished. We have to move fast. Saturday's party has to work. And if it doesn't, then we're done for. Friday night, Henry called. Stephanie, it's done. Temporary guardianship of Gabriel is approved. As of Monday, he's officially under your care. The lawsuit against Daniel and Amanda is ready. Fraud, forgery, and asset theft. I have 17 pieces of evidence, including the video footage and a court order to search their phones. We'll find even more. Tomorrow I'll come to the dinner with 2 sheriff's deputies. You'll just need to give the signal. What signal? I asked. You'll know when the time comes, he said. I hung up and went upstairs to Gabriel's room. He was reading. Tomorrow is our day, I told him. You'll have to come down at the right moment. I need you to be strong because your parents will be here. Gabriel looked up calm and steady. Grandma, they're not my parents anymore. They lost that right the moment they lied about you. I'm okay. I hugged him, my heart swelling with pride. Saturday morning, I woke up early. The day of justice had come. Amanda had transformed the dining room into a lavish banquet hall. White tablecloths, expensive fresh flowers, porcelain dishes, crystal glasses, all charged to My credit card, no less than $15,000. I estimated. By 5 p.m., guests began to arrive. I recognized a few distant relatives, some old neighbors. Amanda's brother, Mark, the uncle who had taken Gabriel in, looked uneasy and exhausted. And several strangers, likely Daniel and Amanda's friends, invited to serve as witnesses. Amanda seated me at the head of the table, like an antique on display. She had even chosen my outfit. A simple beige dress, hair, and a loose bun, no makeup. She wanted me to look frail, confused, and I gave her exactly that. Once everyone settled, Daniel raised his glass and tapped it with a spoon, smiling that practiced false smile. Thank you all for coming. He stood up, glass in hand. I know it's been a long time since our family gathered like this, and that's my fault. His voice trembled with emotion, just enough to make a few guests exchange sympathetic glances. For a second, I almost believed the act. Almost. I've been away from my mother for too long, out of pride, out of foolishness, he said, pausing perfectly for effect. Recently, when I learned she had built something extraordinary all by herself, he let the sentence hang, the mention of my fortune lingering in the air. A few guests nodded softly. That's why, Daniel continued. Amanda and I decided to come back to be here for her, to take care of her. Amanda stood, resting a hand on his shoulder, a gesture so theatrical, I almost laughed. Mrs. Stephanie has built a wonderful legacy, she said sweetly. But she's not young anymore, and we all know managing a business at her age isn't easy. Memory starts to fade, decisions become harder. They were planting seeds of doubt. That's why, Daniel went on. We'd like to announce that we're moving in permanently to make sure Mom is well cared for. And with her approval, he looked at me expectantly. Well, take over managing the company to protect what she's built. Every eye turned toward me. I stayed silent, staring at the empty plate before me, pretending not to understand what was happening. Mom, Daniel said softly. You agree, don't you? It'll be better for you. I lifted my head slowly, looked at him, at Amanda, then around the table. A slow smile spread across my face. Not the weak, confused smile they expected, but the calm, deliberate smile of a woman delivering her checkmate. No, my son, I said clearly. I absolutely do not agree. The room fell into stunned silence. Amanda blinked, baffled. Mother-in-law, what are you talking about? I rose, placing my hands on the table. I'm saying you're both artists, liars, and you think I'm too stupid to see through this pathetic performance. Daniel's face drained of color. Mom, what are you talking about? I'm talking, I said, locking eyes with him, about the fact that I know everything, every lie, every scheme, every dirty move you've made since stepping into my house. I reached under the table, grabbed the remote I'd hidden there, and pressed the button. The massive TV flickered to life, playing the first video. The footage showed Daniel in my office opening drawers and photographing documents with his phone. The date and time were clearly visible. In the corner, the room was utterly silent except for the recording. Mom, I can explain. Sit down. My voice was so sharp he obeyed instantly. The second video began. Amanda lying on the guest bed talking on the phone. Yes, Mr. Clayton, I have all the documents you asked for. She's got $6,400,000 in liquid assets, not counting the house and the business. Can you prepare the Diagnosis papers we discussed. Perfect. How much? 50,000, fine. Once we get access to her account, I'll transfer it. A few guests gasped. Amanda's sister covered her mouth. That's taken out of context. Amanda stammered. I laughed. Dry and humorless. Oh, really? What? Context justifies plotting with a corrupt lawyer to steal my money. The third video played. The two of them in bed whispering. Look, the footage looks real. Because it is real, Amanda. Oh. Stop it. Old women always pretend to be senile for attention. Real or not, I don't care. We need the money. Daniel's head dropped. Amanda's face flushed red as her eyes darted around. For escape. You think I'm confused? I asked, scanning the table. Funny. Because I was perfectly lucid when I installed cameras all over this house. When I hired a private investigator, and when I documented every single thing you did. I grabbed a folder from beneath my chair and threw it onto the table. Papers scattered everywhere. Daniel Carter, $387,000. In gambling debt. House foreclosed. Bank account overdrawn by more than $12,000. 3 lawsuits pending. I turned to Amanda Carter. 3 frozen credit cards. 1 embezzlement charge. 1 outstanding vehicle repossession order. A man named Mark, Amanda's brother, shot to his feet. You lied to me. You said you had jobs, that you'd be picking Gabriel up next week because you'd rented a new house. I looked straight at them. Gabriel? Yes. Let's talk about him. The grandson you claimed was too busy with school when in reality, you lost custody for neglect. The boy you told I was dead. My voice broke, rising with years of buried pain. Dead. Daniel, you told your son his grandmother was dead. Amanda jumped up. No, it was his idea. Be quiet. You're just as guilty. My voice thundered. You're both guilty of throwing me out. After I buried my husband, of erasing me from Gabriel's life, and now of trying to steal everything I built. Tears filled my eyes, but not from weakness. From fury. Do you know how long it took me to rebuild? 2 years selling food at street markets, 2 years sleeping on friends' couches, 2 years of being invisible. I steadied my breath, looking at every face in the room. But I rose. Again. I built 6 stores, hired 17 employees, earned millions all on my own. And when you found out I had money, you didn't come back for love. You came back for the con. Amanda trembled. You can't prove this. I smiled. The kind of smile she'd see in nightmares. Really? Then explain this. I set her phone on the table. The investigator extracted its contents under the court order. 83 text messages with Mr. Clayton. 17 recorded calls. 22 edited videos of me all here. Amanda went white. How did you get my phone? Never underestimate a 69-year-old woman who rebuilt her life from nothing. Darling. We learned to get creative. Daniel buried his face in his hands. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. Mom, I'm sorry. We were desperate. No house, no money, no way out. I didn't know what to do. So, you decided to rob your own mother, I said flatly. Use me. Then discard me again. I was wrong. I know I was, but please don't do this. I'm your son. I met his eyes, my voice cold as steel. You stopped being my son. The day you threw me out 3 days after your father's funeral, the day you blocked my number, returned my letters, and told Gabriel I was dead. I stood Tall, unshaken. Being a son means showing love, respect, and presence. You have none of those, only greed. The doorbell rang. The room froze. That must be my guests, I said calmly, walking to the door. When I opened it, Henry stood there in a crisp suit, briefcase in hand, flanked by two uniformed sheriff's deputies. Good evening, Mrs. Stephanie. I smiled. Faintly. Right on time. Perfect. Then I turned back to the stunned crowd. Everyone, this is Mr. Henry Vaughan, my attorney, and these are two court officers here to deliver an official notice. Henry entered the officers. Behind him, he walked straight to Daniel and Amanda, who sat motionless. Daniel Carter and Amanda Carter. Henry announced, his voice steady and clear. You are under criminal investigation for fraud, document forgery, asset theft, and conspiracy to defraud an elderly person. Daniel jumped up, pale as chalk. What? Henry handed him a folder, all supported by evidence, 17 items, including recordings, videos, text messages, forged documents, and the investigator's testimony. The first hearing will take place Tuesday at 9 o'clock a.m. Amanda let out a strangled laugh. Half sob, half disbelief. You can't do this. We're family. Family, I repeated, my tone low and icy. Family doesn't abandon each other. Family doesn't lie. And family certainly doesn't steal. Henry pulled out another document. This is a restraining order. You have exactly 2 hours to pack your belongings. For the next 5 years, you are forbidden from coming within 500 yards of Mrs. Stephanie. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Daniel collapsed into his chair, head in his hands, sobbing. Amanda looked around desperately for support, but no one met her gaze. A few guests stood quietly and began to leave, unable to bear the tension. See this? Amanda shouted bitterly. A mother doing this to her own son. A woman's cold voice cut through the air. We see a mother defending herself after being betrayed by her own child. And honestly, Amanda, I always knew you were capable of something awful, but this is monstrous. The woman, Amanda's sister, grabbed her purse and walked out without looking back. Within 10 minutes, the room was nearly empty. A few guests hugged me quickly, whispering, you did the right thing. Stay strong. Then they too left. Only Daniel, Amanda, Henry, the officers, and I remained. I looked at them calmly. 2 hours after that, anything left in this house will be donated. Daniel lifted his head, eyes red and swollen. Mom, please listen. I know I was wrong, but don't do this. I can't survive prison. You survived watching me live on the streets, I said coldly. You'll survive the consequences of your own choices. What about Gabriel? Daniel asked, desperate. I smiled, sensing movement behind me. Turning around, I saw Gabriel standing on the stairs, walking down one step at a time, his face pale but determined. Gabriel! Daniel shouted. What are you doing here? I live here, Gabriel said, his voice trembling but firm. With my grandmother. Where I should have been all along. He walked up beside me and held my hand tightly. Amanda laughed shrilly. She kidnapped my son. Kidnapped? Henry stepped forward. Mrs. Stephanie has legal custody of Gabriel. The temporary order was granted yesterday and becomes official Monday. The judge reviewed the neglect case and the false claim that the grandmother was deceased and awarded full guardianship to her. Daniel's face twisted with rage. You've taken Everything from me, he hissed. My son. My chance, everything. No, I said. Calmly. You took everything from yourself the day you chose greed over conscience. He stared at me for a moment, then turned away. Footsteps thundered up the stairs, the slam of a door, the thud of suitcases. Gabriel squeezed my hand. You okay, Grandma? I looked at him, my heart finally at peace. Now I am, sweetheart. 2 hours later, Daniel and Amanda came downstairs, dragging the same suitcases they had brought on their first day. I sat on the sofa, Gabriel beside me, Henry in the armchair reviewing papers, and the court officers standing watched to ensure they took only what belonged to them. Amanda walked past without meeting my eyes. Her face was streaked with mascara, her eyes swollen, but what lingered in her gaze was pure hatred. Daniel paused at the door, staring at Gabriel for a long moment. Are you sure about this? Gabriel flinched slightly, but gripped my hand tighter. I'm sure. I want to stay with someone who never lied to me. Daniel closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were filled with despair. Mom, I tried. I really did. Life was hard. Money was never enough. The bills kept coming. And then you succeeded. You had everything. And I had nothing. It's not fair. I stood up, meeting his eyes. Not fair. You threw me out, cut all contact, erased me from your life. Then when I rebuilt everything from nothing, you called it unfair that I didn't share it with the people who destroyed me. I'm your son. No, I said clearly, my voice like stone. Being a son means love, care, respect. You're just someone who shares my blood, and I've realized that means nothing at all. Amanda tugged on his arm. Let's go. There's nothing left for us here. Wait, Henry said, standing up and pulling another envelope from his case. This is for you, Amanda. She snatched it, opened it, and turned pale. What? You're suing me? Yes, I replied. Evenly. For defamation and harassment. For the videos you edited, the lies you spread, and the plan to have me declared insane. I'm seeking $200,000 in damages. I don't have $200,000. Then, for the first time in your life, I said coldly, you'd better learn how to earn it honestly. Amanda tore the envelope apart and threw it on the floor. You'll regret this, you miserable old woman. One of the court officers stepped forward, resting his hand on his baton. Making threats will get you arrested immediately. Amanda spat on the floor, turned on her heel, and slammed the door. Daniel lingered for a few seconds, looking at his son. Son, I still love you. Gabriel said nothing, only leaned closer against me. Then Daniel left too. The door closed, leaving behind a heavy silence. Gabriel exhaled shakily. It's over, Grandma. It's over, I said, wrapping my arms around him. Henry gathered his files and looked at me. Stephanie, you did brilliantly today, but I have to warn you, this won't be easy. They'll fight back, twist the story, claim you manipulated and divided the family. It'll get ugly. Let them, I said, my voice steady. I have the truth, and this time I have proof. Henry smiled. That rare smile he only showed when he knew victory was certain. Then we're going to win. When everyone left, it was just Gabriel and me in the quiet house. But it was no longer the silence of deceit. It was peace. Grandma, Gabriel said softly after a while. Are you really okay? I mean, you just faced your own son. That couldn't have been easy. I took a deep breath. It wasn't, I admitted, because no matter what he did, part of me still remembers the little boy I used to hold, the son I once raised. But what's harder than confronting him was allowing him to keep destroying me just because we share blood. At some point, you have to choose to protect the one who hurts you or to protect yourself. And I chose myself. Gabriel looked at me, eyes glistening. And what about me? You too, I said, turning to face him. You deserve a better life, one built on truth and real love. He threw his arms around me, crying hard. It wasn't a sad cry. It was release. I held him close, rocking gently like I once did with my own child, letting him cry until the pain ran dry. When he finally looked up and wiped his tears with his sleeve, he asked, "What happens now, Grandma?" I smiled. Now we live honestly. No lies. No fear. The stores are still running. Stronger than ever. And you know what? I tilted my head toward him, smiling softly. When you graduate from high school, if you want, I'll teach you how to manage everything. This will be our home truly forever. I told Gabriel. Not because you owe me anything or have to take responsibility, but because maybe you'll find joy in it. Maybe someday it'll become your passion. His eyes lit up. Really? You'd let me work with you? Of course. But first, you need to live like your age, have friends, study, explore who you are without being weighed down by your parents' lies. The business can wait. He smiled his first genuine smile since the day he walked into my house. That night, after Gabriel had fallen asleep in the room I'd prepared just for him, no longer a temporary space, but his real room with a nameplate on the door, I went out to the porch, sat down with a cup of hot tea, and let the quiet surround me. My phone buzzed, a message from Walter. Just saw the news. The whole city's talking. Are you okay? I replied, better than ever. I'm free now. His answer came quickly. I always knew you were a fighter. I'll stop by tomorrow to see Gabriel. I'm so proud of you. I set my phone down and looked up at the clear night sky, the full moon glowing bright over the calm garden. I thought about everything about 13 years ago when I was sleeping on a friend's couch, penniless and hopeless. And now here I was sitting in my own mansion with my grandson safe beside me, my business thriving, and my dignity intact. Daniel and Amanda had tried to destroy me again. They came with carefully planned lies, calculated manipulations, and precise schemes, but they forgot one thing. You can't break someone who has already fallen and learned to stand up again. A person who's been shattered and still chose to rebuild cannot be destroyed twice. I took the last sip of tea, smiled into the darkness, and whispered, thank you. Life for the falls, the wounds, the betrayals, because they made me who I am today. For the first time in 13 years, I slept deeply with no heaviness, no fear, no hate, only peace. Because when justice comes, it carries the taste of freedom. The hearing took place at the downtown courthouse. I arrived with Henry and Gabriel. Walter was there too, sitting quietly behind us, a steady source of strength. Daniel and Amanda entered a few minutes later with their lawyer, a man who looked exhausted, as if he already knew he was defending the indefensible. Amanda wore a plain suit, her hair neatly tied, light makeup, trying to appear like the beautiful wife. Daniel, on the other hand, wore a wrinkled suit, unshaven with dark circles under his eyes. When our eyes met, he looked away immediately. The judge entered Mrs. Marianne Foster. Around 50, short salt and pepper hair, red-rimmed glasses, a stern face. She arranged her papers and began case. Number 4872. Stephanie Carter versus Daniel Carter and Amanda Carter. Charges include fraud, document forgery, asset misappropriation, and conspiracy to defraud an elderly person. She looked up at the defendants. Do you plead guilty or not guilty? Their lawyer stood. Your Honor, we believe this is a misunderstanding. My clients only intended to care for and protect Mrs. Carter, not to take her assets. Henry stood immediately. Your Honor, there is no misunderstanding. We have 17 pieces of clear evidence, videos, recordings, text messages, and forged documents. They planned step by step to declare my client mentally incompetent in order to seize control of her property. The judge nodded. I'll review the evidence. Counsel, please proceed. Nearly 2 hours later, every piece of proof had been presented, the recordings, messages, falsified diagnosis, and even a certified medical report from 3 days before the incident confirming I was fully competent. Sitting in that courtroom, watching what used to be my personal pain turned into undeniable truth, I realized something. It wasn't a wound. It was justice. When Henry finished his argument, the judge remained silent for a long while before asking, defense, any rebuttal? The man stood, his voice low. Your Honor, my clients admit they were wrong, but they acted under severe financial stress. The judge removed her glasses. So, you're saying they deliberately defrauded an elderly woman because they were broke? By that logic, half this country could claim the same excuse. She turned to Daniel and Amanda. Do either of you have anything to say? Daniel stood facing me, his voice. I have no defense. I hurt the person I should have protected most, and now I'll pay for it. Amanda, still seated, arms crossed, chin raised, said coldly, I have nothing to say. The judge sighed, put her glasses back on, and wrote a few notes. Based on the evidence, I find probable cause on all charges. The restraining order remains in effect, and the criminal case will proceed to arraignment and sentencing in the next phase. Amanda let out a bitter laugh. How ironic. Silence. The judge snapped. And regarding custody of the minor, Gabriel Carter, after reviewing the social worker's report and history of neglect, I hereby grant permanent guardianship to Mrs. Stephanie Carter. I felt Gabriel's small hand tighten around mine. The judge struck the gavel. This hearing is adjourned. The defendants may not leave the city until sentencing. As we exited, curious eyes followed me. Some recognized me from the newspaper articles. Others looked on with a mix of pity and fascination. Gabriel squeezed my hand tighter. Everything happens so fast. Justice sometimes does, I said. When the truth is that clear, Walter approached. Stephanie, the press wants to interview you. Do you want to speak? I paused. Part of me wanted the world to know the truth, but another part, the tired part, only wanted peace. No, not today. Maybe. Not ever. This was a family matter. The law made it public, but I don't need to turn it into a spectacle. Walter nodded in understanding. 3 weeks later, Henry called. Stephanie, I've got news. Daniel and Amanda are offering a plea deal. They'll plead guilty, serve 1 year of community service and 3 years of Probation in exchange for you dropping the civil damages claim. I hesitated. And if I refuse, then we go to trial. They could face 2 to 4 years in prison, but it'll take at least a year. And you'll have to relive all of it. I looked out the window and saw Gabriel laughing in the yard with a new friend. Carefree like a kid his age should be. I'll accept, I said. Are you sure? Yes. I'm done reliving this in court. Gabriel is safe, and I want peace. Henry sighed. You're a better person than I thought. Stephanie. No, I said softly. I'm just tired of war. I want peace. The deal was signed a week later. Daniel and Amanda plead guilty, sentenced to 1 year of community service at a senior home, where, ironically, they'd be caring for people just like the one they tried to deceive. The restraining order remained. Gabriel stayed with me, and I requested an additional clause mandatory therapy sessions for both of them so they wouldn't harm anyone else again. That evening, Gabriel and I sat on the porch. He'd changed so much. In just 3 months, he'd gained nearly 10 pounds. His cheeks fuller, his eyes bright. Again. Grandma, he asked quietly. Why did you agree to that deal? They tried to destroy you, and you let them avoid prison. I took a deep breath. Because revenge is an illusion, Gabriel. People think it brings peace, but it only keeps the wound open. I could have sent them to prison easily, but would that make my life better? They've already lost everything. Their home, their reputation, everyone's trust, and most of all, I looked straight at him. They lost you, he lowered his head. I don't think I matter to them. Maybe not yet, I said gently. But someday they'll understand. When the noise fades and they realize what they truly lost, that pain will haunt them far longer than any sentence. Do you think they'll change? I don't know, I admitted. But I gave them a chance. What they do with it is up to them. Not me. He nodded slowly. You're strong, Grandma. I smiled faintly. Not strong, sweetheart. Just someone who learned that holding on to hate is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. In the end, the one who suffers is you. We sat quietly for a while, listening to the crickets outside. So what now, Grandma? Gabriel asked. I put my arm around him. Now we live truly. Live without looking back, without carrying the past, he smiled. That sounds amazing. It's more than amazing, I said, squeezing his shoulder gently. It's freedom, the kind we finally earned. 6 months passed since the trial. 6 months of silence from Daniel and Amanda until one rainy afternoon in May. I received a call from Carol, an old friend who once took me in when I had nothing. Stephanie, I need to tell you something, she said, her voice trembling. What is it? I saw your son at the grocery store today. My chest tightened, but I kept my voice calm. He looks different, thinner, unshaven, clothes worn out. He only bought a few basics, rice, pasta, canned food. I swallowed hard and his spirit. He seemed lost when he saw me, tried to walk away. But I called after him. The moment I asked how he was, he broke down crying. Right there in the aisle. He said his lost everything. Can't find work because everyone in town knows about the case. And Amanda filed for divorce. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Carol continued. She left 3 months ago when she realized no more money was coming in. Packed up and left in the middle of the night. Didn't even finish her community service. Daniel's renting a cheap room now. Doing odd jobs. deliveries, warehouse shifts, anything he can get. I stayed silent. He told me. He's written you a few letters, Carol said softly, but never had the courage to send them. A faint ache ran through my chest, not pity, but something deeper, harder to name. Carol, why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know, she said gently. I'm not saying you should forgive him or help him. Just, he's paying the price in the harshest way. I thanked her quietly and ended the call. Sitting in my office, I stared at my phone for a long time. Gabriel had just come home from school, his backpack still on his shoulders. Grandma, do we have chocolate chip cookies? I'm starving. Yes. In the blue tin, I said. My mind still elsewhere. He noticed right away. Something's wrong, isn't it? I hesitated, then decided to tell the truth. Carol called me. She ran into your father. Gabriel froze at the doorway. I told him everything. The poverty, the divorce, the isolation, the odd jobs. He sat down across from me, thinking for a long time before saying, you know what's strange? I thought I'd feel sorry for him, but I don't feel anything. That's not strange, I replied. He's going through what we did for years. The feeling of being abandoned and dismissed. Gabriel nodded. Now he knows what it feels like to be treated like you don't matter. Then he looked at me, perceptive as always. You're thinking about helping him, aren't you? I sighed. A part of me is. After all, he's still my son, and somewhere deep down, there's still a mother who doesn't want to see her child fall apart. But another part of me knows it's not my responsibility to save him. He made his choices, and now he has to live with them. Gabriel thought for a moment, then said softly, you should do what brings you peace, not what brings you guilt. Not what people expect, but what lets you sleep at night. I smiled. That boy was only 15, but sometimes spoke like an old man. You're wise, you know that. Because I have a good teacher, he said, with a wink before running off to get cookies. 2 weeks later, I asked Henry to look into Daniel's situation. Not to help, but to have all the facts before deciding anything. The report came 3 days later, and it was worse than I expected. Daniel was living in a rundown room that cost $480 a month, working 12-hour shifts, delivering packages, earning barely $1,000. Anyone who searched his name online saw the headline, man who scammed his elderly mother. No one would hire him. Amanda had disappeared, remarried a businessman in another state, and changed her last name. Worse still, Daniel had filed 3 official requests to visit Gabriel. All 3 denied by Gabriel himself. The last letter Daniel wrote was attached to the report. Henry had obtained a certified copy. I read it aloud alone in my office, stopping several times as my voice broke. Gabriel, I know I don't have the right to call you that anymore. I lost that right when I chose money over you. When I lied about your grandmother, when I let Amanda control everything because I didn't have the courage to stop her. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I love you. Always have. The worst punishment isn't poverty or community service. It's waking up every morning, knowing you exist, but not being allowed to see you. Not even to ask if you're happy. Your grandmother gave you what I never could. Stability, truth, and unconditional love. You're better off without me, but I'll always wish you peace, even from afar, even if I'm no longer part of your life. I folded the letter, my hands trembling. It wasn't a performance. It was real. Pain poured through every word. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't bring peace. It only prolongs exhaustion. That night, at dinner, I looked at Gabriel. I need to tell you something. Your father wrote you a few letters. Gabriel froze, his fork halfway up. I don't want to read them. You don't have to. I just want you to know they exist because one day when you're older, maybe you'll want to know. Or maybe you won't, but the choice should be yours. He lowered his head. Voice soft. His suffering. Yes, and that's the consequence. No, Grandma. Gabriel said, lifting his tear-filled eyes. You can be forgiving, but I'm not. He abandoned me, lied to me, used me, so. Yeah, he deserves it. I nodded gently. You're allowed to feel that way. I'm not asking you to forgive, just to know that if someday you want to, the door will still be open and that decision will be yours. He went quiet again, and later that night, I heard him crying in his room, not out of hate, but out of mourning for the father he wished he'd had. I understood then that some wounds, even when justice has been served, still need time to heal. 3 months later in August, I received a call from the supervisor of the community service program. Mrs. Carter, I'm calling to inform you that Mr. Daniel has completed his 200 required hours. That fast? Actually, he did 320. He kept volunteering afterward. Exemplary behavior. The residents adore him. He reads to them, plays chess, helps with physical therapy. I don't know what happened between you two, but his truly changed. I thanked her and hung up. That night, I made my decision. I wouldn't help Daniel, nor would I punish him further. I would let go, let him walk his own path while I lived mine. Because, in the end, true justice isn't eternal punishment. It's letting everyone reap exactly what they've sown. And Daniel was still reaping every single day. A year passed since that fateful evening. Gabriel was now a sophomore in high school, doing well, surrounded by good friends, his smile brighter than ever. He'd gained about 18 pounds, looked healthy, and spent weekends helping me at the bakeries, not because I asked, but because he wanted to. Grandma, look at this, Gabriel said, showing me his phone. As we sat in a pastry shop in the southern part of the city, a customer posted a video of the birthday cake I made for her daughter. It already has 50,000 views. 50,000? I asked in surprise. That's organic marketing, Grandma, he said with a grin. We should open an official account for Sweet Stephanie, post behind-the-scenes videos, share recipes, interact with followers. I looked at my 16-year-old grandson, talking passionately about marketing, and felt my heart swell with pride. You know, you're starting to sound like a businessman. Gabriel blushed. I just learned by watching you. Walter, sitting at the next table enjoying a new tart recipe, laughed out loud. And I knew this was our true new beginning. This boy is going to be your successor, Walter said, chuckling. It's too soon, I replied. But if that's the path he chooses, I'll always support him. Gabriel looked at me seriously, the kind of look he had only when he was about to say something important. Grandma, can I ask you something? Always. Have you ever thought about expanding? I mean, not just opening more stores, franchising, letting others open Sweet Stephanie bakeries in other cities. Walter set down his fork, intrigued. The kid's got vision, Stephanie. I smiled. Franchising isn't easy, Gabriel. We'd have to manage quality, train staff, handle logistics. But imagine, he said excitedly. Sweet. Stephanie stores in 10 cities, 20, 50. Creating jobs, sharing your recipes. That's a real legacy, isn't it? Hearing my 16-year-old grandson talk about legacy with such passion, I realized I hadn't just found my grandson again. I'd found a partner, someone who looked toward the future with the same fire I once had for the present. Well, think about it, I said carefully, step by step. He smiled and started typing notes on his phone. One October morning, nearly 18 months after that night, I received a handwritten envelope with no return address. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was Daniel's handwriting. Mom, I know I have no right to write this. I know the restraining order is still in effect, and maybe this letter will be torn apart, but I have to try. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for money either. I've learned to live with little, and strangely that's taught me more than all my years of comfort. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for not sending me to prison when you could have. Thank you for giving Gabriel the life I never could. Thank you for forcing me to look in the mirror and see the monster I became. The past 18 months have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. I've learned the value of honest work, the dignity of earning what I have, and the humility of asking for help. I still do delivery work, but I also volunteer at the nursing home 3 times a week, not because I have to, but because helping others reminds me who I should have been. For you. There's an old man there named Edward who reminds me of Dad. I read the newspaper to him because his eyesight is failing. He told me, Daniel, it's never too late to start over. It's only too late when you stop trying. I won't stop. I'll keep working to become better. To be the kind of man who can one day look Gabriel in the eye without shame. I don't expect a reply. I just want you to know you were right and I was wrong. With all the respect, I'm slowly relearning Daniel. I folded the letter and wiped away my tears. It wasn't manipulation. I knew my son well enough to tell when he meant every word. But I also knew one letter couldn't erase years of pain, couldn't heal old wounds, couldn't rebuild a burned bridge. It was only a beginning. I placed the letter in my desk drawer, not ready to respond, but unable to throw it away. For Gabriel's 17th birthday, I threw a small party. His friends came along with Walter, Carol and her family, a few trusted employees, and Henry. The house was decorated with gold and black balloons, Gabriel's choice. On the table stood a 3-tier cake I had made myself, covered in white frosting and delicate decorations. As everyone sang happy birthday, I looked at my grandson surrounded by people who loved him sincerely with no lies, no hidden motives, and I realized this was the real victory. Not the bank account, not the chain of stores, not the reputation, but this moment. This happy boy, encircled by genuine love. After everyone left, Gabriel and I cleaned up. Halfway through, he stopped. Grandma. Yes, sweetheart. I know. Dad sent you a letter. I froze, a dish still in my hand. How do you know? I saw it while looking for a file in your office. I didn't read it, but I recognized his handwriting. I know you didn't reply, and I'm glad you didn't. I exhaled in relief, but Gabriel continued, his voice softer. I think maybe someday I'll want to talk to him. My heart clenched. Ah. You sure? Not really, he admitted. But holding on to anger just makes me tired. I don't want to forgive him. At least. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I just want to think about him without it hurting this much. He placed a hand on his chest. That's called healing, Gabriel, I said. Quietly. And healing takes time. How long? No one's the same. You'll know when it happens. It's not now, he said. Softly. And that's okay. I wrapped my arms around him in the warm glow of the fading party lights, overwhelmed with gratitude for the chance to raise a child again, this time, the right way. 2 years later, Daniel sent 3 more letters. He didn't ask for anything. He just wrote about how he'd found steady work at a bakery, ironically, baking bread and pastries. He was attending therapy regularly and had joined a support group for recovering gambling addicts. I never replied, but I read every letter and kept them all. Gabriel graduated high school as valedictorian and was chosen to give the commencement speech. His speech was about new beginnings and second chances. He didn't mention family, but everyone who knew the story understood. He was accepted into 3 universities and chose to study business management. I want to learn to do what you did, but with a degree, he said, smiling. On graduation day, while taking pictures on the school lawn, Gabriel looked at his phone and suddenly turned serious. Grandma. There's a message. From who? From Dad. He read it aloud. Gabriel, I know. I don't have the right, but I wanted to congratulate you. I saw the news and read that you were the valedictorian. I'm proud of you. Even if I can't be there, I'm proud. You've become the man I should have been. Dad, loving you from afar. Gabriel's hands trembled slightly. Grandma, he was at the ceremony. How do you know? Carol told me. He stood by the entrance, watched from a distance, and left quietly. I placed my hand on my grandson's cheek. How do you feel? Sad, he said, but not angry anymore. Just sad for what could have been but never was. That's called growing up, sweetheart. Gabriel looked at me. I think I'm ready. Not to forgive, but to talk, to listen, to try. I smiled, my throat tight. You're sure? I'm sure. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, Daniel walked into my living room. It was the first time I'd seen him in almost 3 years. He looked thinner, with grey streaks in his hair and genuine humility in his eyes, none of the pretense he once carried. Gabriel stood beside me while Walter and Henry sat nearby as witnesses. Mom. Daniel's voice shook. Thank you for letting me come. I motioned for him to sit. The conversation lasted nearly an hour, honest, painful, but sincere. Daniel didn't ask for forgiveness. He simply shared his journey. Therapy, support groups, work at the bakery, volunteering at the nursing home. I didn't come here to ask for a second chance, he said, glancing at Gabriel. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you both to know I'm trying to change, one day at a time. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment before speaking. I don't know if I can ever fully forgive you, Dad. You hurt me too much. Daniel nodded, eyes red. I know, but Gabriel continued, I also don't want to carry hate forever, so maybe we can try. Slowly with no promises. Just see where it goes. Tears streamed down Daniel's face. That's more than enough for me. I looked at the man who had once been the little boy in my arms, the one who broke me, and was now broken himself. And I said the hardest words of My life. Daniel, I can't forgive you. Yet. Maybe I never fully will, but I don't hate you anymore. And that's enough. He nodded, tears falling. It's enough, Mom. It's enough. After he left, Gabriel hugged me. Grandma, thank you for agreeing. I know that wasn't easy. It wasn't, I admitted. But for you, and maybe a little for myself, because holding on to hate is exhausting. Gabriel. Now 5 years have passed since the night everything changed. The Sweet Stephanie franchise has grown into 23 stores across 7 states. Gabriel is now the director of development composed. Respected. Walter passed away 2 years ago. Peacefully surrounded by family. He left his shares to a foundation that helps women over 50 start their own businesses. Carol is still my closest friend. We have lunch together every Sunday. As for Daniel, he now exists on the edges of my life. Birthday dinners, Christmas, Thanksgiving, always polite, always at a distance. He opened his own small bakery, earning an honest living. Gabriel helped him create the business plan. I neither interfered nor stopped them. We're not a perfect family. Probably never will be, but at least we're learning. Learning that forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's simply refusing to let pain control you anymore. This morning, while I was mixing batter for carrot cake, the first recipe I ever made when all this began, Gabriel walked into the kitchen. Grandma, I just signed 5 more franchise deals. 5. My goodness, I can't keep up with you anymore. I learned from the best, he said, laughing, stealing a pinch of shredded carrot. You know what's funny? What if someone had told me 5 years ago that my life would look like this? I wouldn't have believed them. And are you happy now? He thought for a moment, then smiled brightly. Very happy. Because you taught me it doesn't matter how many times we fall. What matters is how many times we choose to get back up. I hugged my grandson, now a grown man, and felt peace fill my heart. Because after everything, true victory isn't about money, revenge, or recognition. It's about raising a good person, living with purpose, and proving that every new beginning is possible at any age. Some wounds never fully disappear. They just become scars, reminding us that we've lived, we've hurt, and we've healed. I once thought justice meant seeing those who hurt me punished. But now, I understand true justice is when your heart is no longer imprisoned by hate. Family isn't always where you were born. It's where the door stays open no matter how many times you fall. If someone in your life has hurt you, maybe you're not ready to forgive, and that's okay. Just start by releasing the anger a little. Letting your heart breathe, making room for something better to enter your life. And what about you? What do you think is the line between forgiveness and forgetting? Share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes your story might help someone else find their way back to the light. And if you're listening to this story from somewhere far away, tell me where you are. Thank you for joining me on this journey, one of pain, healing, and love strong enough to begin again. Follow along so we can keep reflecting, learning, and standing up together. Because every story can be a mirror reflecting our own lives.